Hello, I'm Eric Holdeman, and welcome to Disaster Zone, a show about emergencies and disasters that can happen anywhere and at any time. You already know that being prepared for a disaster can make all the difference. Being prepared is important at home and at work, and there's help for businesses too. Today we're talking with the Small Business Administration's Regional Administrator, Cal Goings. And Cal, thank you for being on the show today.
Eric, it's great to see you again. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't know how many years. You said you're 40. I knew you in the early 20s, so it has been a while. We both hail from Puyallup.
Exactly.
Well, at least now I do. I think you were
born and raised there.
Yeah,
I was born and raised there.
Right. So let's just jump right in. And Seattle is location for many FEMA or federal program offices. Skipped and said FEMA there, but including Small Business Administration. So what's the size, scope of your responsibilities and typically we don't use acronyms, but for this we'll say Small Business Administration, we'll keep saying SBA.
SBA. Well, again, thank you for having me on the show today. And I just want to say how much I've appreciated watching you and your career around disaster preparedness. It's something that's been a passion of yours and a priority of yours for a long time, before it was cool.
And so we really back when I had hair, and that's what it does to you folks.
Exactly. So thank you for your ongoing leadership on this issue. So the Small Business Administration, SBA, we're a federal agency. And it's important, I think, to point out, we're a standalone cabinet-level agency. We're not part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. So the administrator, or the secretary, if you will, of SBA serves on the president's cabinet.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep, appointed by the president, confirmed by the U.S. Senate, cabinet-level official, and we're headquartered in Washington, D.C. And then like FEMA and the other agencies you mentioned, we're spread out across the same 10 federal regions that the others are. And so Region 10, here in the Pacific Northwest, headquartered in Seattle, includes Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. And I'm really honored and privileged to lead a phenomenal team of federal employees spread across those 4 Northwest states, helping small businesses and entrepreneurs on a daily basis. So it's a great federal agency that we don't do enough to talk about, and that's why being on the show today, not only letting your viewers know what SBA is and does, including our disaster programs, is so much appreciated.
Okay, and I'm very familiar with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the disaster role, but all their offices are really right here in the metropolitan area. They have a couple different specific locations. It sounds like you have multiple locations across that.
We do. So our regional office, the office I work in, is in downtown Seattle in Belltown at 4th and Battery. Okay. And then each of our state offices have an office as well. So the Washington State office is co-located in the same office as the regional office. And then we have an office in Portland, our Oregon district office, Boise, our Boise, Idaho district office, Anchorage, the Alaska district office, and then we actually have a branch office in Spokane and in Juneau as well. And so across those offices, we've got a phenomenal team that works every day to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses, start their businesses, and expand their businesses.
Okay, and so give me an idea of how many people are in a typical branch office, and then how many are at the headquarters?
Yeah. So in the field, for example, in our Seattle team, we've got about 25 people. Headquarters has about 3,000 people nationwide. So that gives you an idea of the scope of our operations. Yeah. But what's really important, I think, to point out is the wonderful resource partners we work with at SBA. Instead of growing the federal workforce, Congress has decided that we would provide most of our programs through a group of resource partners. And we are really lucky in the state of Washington to have a great set of resource partners. That includes small business development centers that are co-located at many 2-year community technical colleges, our women's business centers, our SCORE chapters, and our Veterans Business Opportunity Centers, as well as Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. So wherever you are located, either here in Seattle, across King County, or the state of Washington, or the Northwest, or the U.S., there is likely an SBA office or a resource partner office nearby. And you can go to sba.gov, put in your zip code, and it will bring up the centers that are closest to you, their hours of operations, and a phone number. And the great thing, being a federal agency, you and I and your viewers, we've collectively helped pay for the SBA to operate. So the vast majority of our classes and our offerings are very low cost, if not completely free.
Okay, and so give me an idea what low cost is.
So for the majority of our classes, that's absolutely free.
Okay.
Some of them may be, $10 or $15 or $20. For example, in downtown Seattle, at our office in Belltown, every Thursday we offer a free class. And so you can register online, come in and learn about financing, learn about taxes, learn about regulatory issues. At the SBA, we offer a great set of services. In fact, we often call them the 3 C's, and that's capital, contracts, and counseling.
Okay.
So the first C, capital. So the SBA, except in disasters, which I think we'll come back to after the break,
yes,
but for the vast majority of entrepreneurs, small businesses that we work with, we don't actually make the loans directly ourselves at SBA. We guarantee the loans that banks or credit unions make to entrepreneurs. So whether that's KeyBank or Columbia Bank or your local credit union, we guarantee the loans that they make.
And what's that guarantee do for the small business?
Great question. So often new businesses or businesses that might be in an endeavor that a bank isn't as comfortable as they'd like to be, if they don't feel comfortable, the financial institution that is, making the direct loan themselves, they'll often come to SBA and look for an SBA guarantee. And what that means to your question is...
Now, does the bank come or the business owner?
The bank, often.
Okay.
Is we will guarantee the loans, depending on the situation, at about 75%. So if Calvin comes in for Calvin's cookies and the bank's not quite sure about my recipes or my business model, knowing that they can get the bank can get a government guarantee at 75%, so that if, heaven forbid, my business goes under, that financial institution is only on the hook for a 25% loss. Uncle Sam makes up the difference. So that allows financial institutions a little more comfort in their underwriting to go ahead and make those loans. So that's that first C, access to capital. The second C is access to government contracts, contracting. So at the SBA, we do all the training and certification for businesses that want to do procurement work for the federal government. So if at Joint Base Lewis McChord or the Corps of Engineers, they're looking for a construction firm, you name the type of business they might be looking for, SBA has that repository of small disadvantaged businesses that can do federal procurement work. And it's a great opportunity. The federal government sets aside 23% of all contract actions for small disadvantaged businesses. And if you think about it, the federal government being the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world, that equates to about $100 billion a year for small businesses. So it's a great program. And the third C, which we were talking about earlier, is our counseling programs. And this is a great chance to come in and learn about our loan programs, get some technical assistance, web-based marketing classes, and like I said earlier, most of those are free or very low cost.
Okay. How about, what do you guys classify as small business? I've read different things for the years and I was surprised. At one point I thought, well, small is considered anything 500 employees or less. And I think, wow, that's not small to me.
Well, that's actually correct. We use what's called the North American Industrial Code System, NAICS codes, because obviously a dry cleaner is different than a restaurant, which is different than a timber harvesting company. And so you can go to, again, our website, sba.gov, look up at NAICS codes and find exactly the size threshold for your specific business. But typically, we say it is a business with 500 or fewer employees, which I don't know about you, but that seems like a pretty big small business to me. I will tell you, the majority of the businesses we work with on a day-to-day basis at SBA are businesses of 20 or fewer employees, and really within that 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now, there's nothing that makes us happier than a small business like Mud Bay Pet Foods, which has locations all across Seattle and King County, that started with one store in Thurston County, has now grown to the 14th largest pet retailer in the United States.
Really?
So they've graduated. They're no longer a small company. But again, our day-to-day, our bread and butter really is around those small businesses of 10 or fewer.
And they started out with an
SBA loan, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to walk around the different neighborhoods of Seattle and King County and see those businesses, whether it's Cucaruza Popcorn in Bellevue that is now spread across the globe, or Cupcake Royale that started with one location in Capitol Hill, or Mud Bay Pet Foods, as I mentioned.
I'm trying to push myself away from Cupcake Royale.
I've had way too many Cupcake Royale cupcakes over the last couple of weeks, and too much popcorn from Cucaruza. But those are great local businesses that, with a little support from the SBA, their hard work, their grit, their determination, a great business plan, and even better marketing plan, they put our neighbors back to work. And it's small businesses that have really led the U.S. economy out of the recession. You know, Eric, 2 out of 3 new net jobs over the past 15 years have been in small business. So with small businesses that turned the economy around, took us out of the recession, and are frankly key to the long-term stable growth of the U.S. economy. And we've got some great local examples here in King County.
Yeah, and you know, job-wise, just the thing. We always think about, certainly Amazon's hired a bunch of people, but Boeing's been a major force here, Microsoft's a major force, but comparing those large mega businesses to small business, still, the majority of jobs are
small business. I mean, we are really lucky in the Seattle, King County area to have some phenomenal large companies, and you've mentioned some of them. But really, the story of Seattle and King County and most of Washington State is about small neighborhood businesses. Over 95% of all businesses in the state of Washington are considered small. And when I say small, I'm 50 or fewer employees. And I mean, you know that firsthand as you go around different parts, whether it's Puyallup, where you live and where I grew up, or in Queen Anne or Magnolia, those unique local business districts, they're what make those communities special places. You know, every community has a big box retailer, and those are important as well. But it's those unique small businesses that give the local flavor, that rich fabric that makes our neighborhood businesses, districts, places you want to live and work and shop.
Okay. So on the loan guarantee aspect, do they get a lower interest rate as part of that also, perhaps, or maybe yes or no? Or?
Every situation is a little different depending on credit risk and the underwriting standards, but typically yes. Our loan guarantees are prime plus 1 or 2 or 3 points, so pretty good interest rates. And we offer, a lot of people think of a business loan in the, maybe the $1 million or the $750,000, and those we do offer those through our guaranteed loan programs as well. But we have a great program called microloans. Because often small entrepreneurs, they don't need $1 million loan. They need a $10,000 loan to buy new processing equipment, or
We've
to buy.
seen that in Asia, and that they call them microloans. It's
Absolutely,
$100.
exactly. And we work with a phenomenal network of partners in Seattle, Craft 3, Community Capital Development, Washington Ventures, and others who are really helping small businesses with those microloans so they can gear up. In fact, a great program we just launched this past year is around food trucks. Now, we have an SBA office in Portland, and I always love frequenting the food trucks at the lunch hour.
Yeah, they have that one park-like area that's ringed by
It's amazing. And that's starting here in Seattle as well. And so working with Washington Ventures, a great local nonprofit, the City of Seattle, and other organizations, we put a technical assistance program around food truck entrepreneurs. So they get several weeks of in-class education about how to run a successful business, taxes, reporting, regulatory side of things. And then using some of the support from SBA and others, they then have a food truck that they will rent out to an entrepreneur for $70, and that entrepreneur gets to park it in Seattle. Ventures helps them with the permitting, and then that entrepreneur gets the experience and is able to keep all of the revenue they make that day, minus the small $70 fee. It's an exciting, transformative program to see entrepreneurs, new American entrepreneurs who have arrived recently in this country and are working hard to go through that class, open a business, and be part of the American dream is so powerful, and it's something that we get to do every day at SBA.
Okay. We've got about a minute before we take our break, but question, I'm a small business. We're riding the elevator. We'll call it the Columbia Center, so I got a 70-story ride, but it's about a minute. And I'd ask you, well, what's the best advice you can give me I'm thinking about starting a new business?
The best advice I can offer is to come see an SBA counselor. Okay. Often entrepreneurs will come to us when it's too late, when things have become difficult and they're trying to unwind their personal finances from their business finances. So whether you're in business today or whether you're a prospective entrepreneur, it's never a bad idea to come visit one of our counselors. Get a fresh set of eyes to look over your marketing plan. Or, as most entrepreneurs, you've got your business plan up here, but never translated into writing. We can help you do that. So start with an SBA counselor, get some free advice, find out how we can help you succeed and grow even faster.
Okay. Well, this has been terrific. We've buzzed through half the show already, so we're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, folks, we're going to be talking with our regional administrator for the Small Business Administration about their role in disasters, which is significant to you, both as individuals. You don't have to be in business to benefit from your federal government Small Business Administration. So watch this message and then we'll be right back.
So I've come up with a family emergency plan.
Great. What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
How will we know what to do?
You won't.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
And me too. Thanks for this, sweetie.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us today here on Disaster Zone, my guest is the Regional Administrator, Calvin Goings, for the Small Business Administration. And Cal, thanks for being here on the show again. We're going to pick up where we left off and really switch more to the role of SBA in disasters. And before I got in emergency management, I had no idea. I always thought of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and they were always in the news, and never heard much about SBA. So what's your mission, whether in conjunction with FEMA or separately? How's that work?
So, my background was in banking and in public policy. So I understood SBA from the traditional, the lending side of the house,
Okay.
and the technical assistance and the advocacy role from my work. But frankly, the disaster side was a little new to me. Now, as you might remember from our Pierce County days, I served as a fire commissioner in Pierce County
Okay.
a long time ago, so understood disaster preparedness and disaster response.
Now, was that Central Pierce?
It was Central Pierce.
Oh, okay.
It was Summit South Hill District 9 at the time, and as you know, they've
Okay.
merged
there's
and
merging
grown.
everywhere.
Exactly. And so it was interesting, my very first day as regional administrator, so after I had been sworn in by our team, I went to a disaster. And it was, so again, most people don't associate SBA with disaster
Right,
response. And if they do, they would think, well, small businesses. Well, this was actually an apartment fire in Shoreline. And so we were there with a tent set up for renter assistance. And so yes, to your question, SBA does play a very important role in disaster response. Now, most people think of FEMA, and that's a logical response, and FEMA does a phenomenal job, and the vast majority of
and when you said a fire at an apartment, I'd be thinking Red Cross.
Exactly, but SBA does have an important role. And so typically, after a disaster, whether it's the mudslide in Oso or the natural gas explosion in North Bend several months ago, the governor requests a declaration by SBA and often with FEMA as well. And after a survey is done of the damage, and if it meets certain thresholds and the decision is made to move forward, a declaration can be made by SBA's administrator in Washington, D.C. to declare a disaster.
Is that request made to you and then forwarded?
Up the chain of command,
Okay.
yes. And we're very well accustomed on the West Coast to disaster response, unfortunately. And so SBA made the very smart decision to centralize those roles. And so there's a West Coast disaster response office and an East Coast disaster response office.
In the headquarters.
For SBA, exactly. And actually field offices on the West Coast and the East Coast as well that report up to headquarters. So redundancy, so that if something should happen, whether it's in the national area,
region,
we've got other offices ready to stand up as well. So if that decision is made, a declaration is made, SBA is ready to make immediate loans, disaster loans to help out. And as we mentioned, it's not only for small businesses, but it's for individuals, businesses of all sizes, and nonprofits and renters as well. And I think it's really important for viewers to understand that, because if something unfortunately should happen, SBA is ready to proceed and to respond as well.
Okay, and when you say small business, if I have a company of 1,000 people, are they covered by SBA or?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
it's in a disaster. The best way to kind of think about it, and this is a kind of a boiled down version, is FEMA is there for grants. But if a business or a homeowner or a renter qualifies for a loan, then the SBA steps in. And again, that's businesses of any size, homeowners, renters, and nonprofits. SBA is there to help.
Okay, and I know the number from years ago. I haven't had to deal with this personally, but it used to be you had to have 25 homes or businesses impacted. Do you remember what
That's the rough number as well. And again, every disaster is a little different. Sometimes total damage will offset whether it's a lot of structures with minor damage versus several structures with a lot of damage. And we really offer two main programs. First is to individuals and families, and second is to businesses and nonprofits. So that first area for individuals and for families is for renters up to $40,000. So if the contents of your apartment were damaged, ruined through fire, flood, etc., up to $40,000 to replace that personal property.
And that's a loan?
Yes, these are all loans.
Is there any grant whatsoever?
Not from SBA. That's where FEMA would step up.
Okay.
So again, if someone is in a good financial position,
Yes.
it would be a loan from SBA. If not, it would be a grant from FEMA.
Okay.
So for renters, up to $40,000 for the contents. Same thing with homeowners as well. And then for homeowners, up to $200,000 for real physical damage to the structure of a home, the condominium, et cetera. So that's for homeowners and for families. And then for businesses and nonprofits, again, up to $200,000 for physical damage to the structure, but up to $2 million for what we call economic injury. Think about the Oso landslide. You know, with the state highway out of commission, there was no way for customers to get to those businesses.
For a long period.
For a long period of time. And so as a result, those businesses suffered an economic injury. And so we allow the ability to kind of finance through that, whether it's to replace your stock, replace your assets, or simply to get the business through that very difficult period of time.
Okay. Are farmers anywhere in this mix, or is that a separate program?
Not typically. That's usually USDA. In fact, the fires that happened in Central
And
Washington.
USDA is?
Federal. Thank you. This is
Yep.
this is an acronym-free show. The United States Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
So for crop disasters, for ag-related businesses, USDA has those loan opportunities as part of their portfolio.
Yeah. And really, in my experience, SBA has really backstopped the state significantly. You know, everybody thinks about the state and the governor applying for a federal FEMA presidential declaration. Well, the threshold there is getting higher as we go. They talk about having criteria of $1 per person of the state's population, but it's a little loosey-goosey in that. But after that, if you don't have that, you're it.
Right.
From the federal government perspective.
Absolutely.
And states, I don't know if you know, certainly Washington doesn't have any programs that if you don't get a presidential, you know, there's a state disaster fund. Are there any that you know
Not
of?
that I'm aware of.
In,
and so
in
you're
Region
right.
10.
Right.
There are some nationally, I know.
Right. So we are often, as you said, the backstop. And depending on threshold, sometimes SBA can make an agency-only declaration as well if other criteria aren't made for a presidential declaration.
Okay.
And so many of the smaller disasters, it's SBA doing an agency declaration that steps up. And when I say small, it may be small on paper, but to the people who have been impacted by it, it's the most tragic and unfortunate circumstance they've had to go through. And knowing that SBA can be there at some level of support, I think is very important. And it's important that folks know that.
And I'm trying to remember, I think it's something like any small business that's, you might have this because it's in more your program, that's forced to close its doors for 3 days or more will probably fail within the next, that's like 40% of those businesses will fail within the next 3 years. I don't know if...
Those sound about right. It's running a small business is not easy.
Yeah.
I grew up around small businesses. My grandfather owned a small business. My stepmother owned a small business, worked in small business banking, and then have had the pleasure of working, for SBA now for 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, small business owners are some of the most resilient, driven, people committed when it comes to what they wake up to every day to make their business profitable, and they really treat their employees like extended family. And so when a disaster strikes, it's personal. You've hit them right here, and their family and their extended family. And for many communities, those local small businesses are the backbone of the local economy. It's that business and the amount it pays in taxes that keeps the police force or the volunteer firefighters staffed. And so we need to be as efficient, as transparent, and as quick to respond as possible at SBA, because whether it's 1 day or 2 day or 3 days, as you mentioned, every day that a small business is closed has huge economic ripples and impacts that go through that entire small business community.
Okay. Part of your counseling program, is there any disaster programs? Perhaps it's a training class on it about have a business continuity program?
Continuity of operations and business resiliency. Unfortunately, it's just human nature. We often wait till it's too late. For example, that's why I always tell folks, come see an SBA counselor when you don't need us. Because often when a small business needs financing, it's because of one of two things. One, either something really bad has happened to the small business, like a disaster, or something really great has happened, i.e. they are ready to expand and maybe expand their footprint. That's the worst time to be trying to write a business plan very quickly. Yeah. So come see us when you don't need us, get that business plan put together, be ready to grow or expand, or when the curveball is thrown your way. Same applies for disaster and disaster resiliency and being ready. Make sure, and SBA has got some great online tools at sba.gov. We've partnered with the national organization to provide some of those training programs, but find out more. Make sure your business can weather whatever storm might come.
Okay. And an ounce of planning is worth a pound of response.
Absolutely,
I guess.
yes.
I was just talking to my brother-in-law driving in on my 2-hour commute here to Seattle today. It was great.
Oh.
But my nephew, his son has a restaurant business back in Illinois, and we were talking about, I said, it's like being a dairy farmer. The cows have to be milked every day, twice a day, and a lot of personal attention, and a lot on the line for that.
Right.
It's huge.
As I mentioned earlier, those small businesses, it's like their extended family. And when something happens, it hits everyone very hard. Put in lots of hours, long days, lots of commitment, and often their personal finances on the line. And unfortunately, when we see some entrepreneurs, it's a little too late. They've maxed out their personal credit card to keep their business afloat. So come see SBA, come see one of our free counselors, find out how we can help make your business more resilient.
Yeah, and this is years ago. I remember there was a figure in Washington State how many small businesses are funded on a personal credit card, and it was the vast majority.
It's unfortunately very high.
Very high.
Very high.
Well, we're almost at the end here, and I thought we could tap into some of your history here that you've been elected.
I'm getting old.
Yeah. So. Well, everything's
so thanks.
Everything's relatively speaking. But I mean, you're a fire commissioner. I know you were in the state legislature as a representative, and then you're on the Pierce County Council as a council member. Now you've been on this SBA role as an administrator in that, what would you tell those elected officials who were perhaps your peers back then and now today about disasters and paying attention to it, or any advice you'd give to them now that you know more?
Right.
About.
I think the first piece of advice is you can never be prepared enough. When I served as a fire district commissioner, disaster preparedness and response was a top priority. When as a member of the state Senate, we actually introduced and passed to form a committee, the Joint Select Committee on Emergency Preparedness for the state legislature. And as a member of the county council, introduced and sponsored legislation to do the same thing for county government as well. Because unfortunately, we're all busy. Whether it's Little League games or PTA meetings, there's always something else to be done around the house. And so it's something that we often don't think about enough. Disaster preparedness needs to be front and center, especially where we live here, on the Pacific Rim, the possibility of an earthquake, heaven forbid, or fires, or et cetera. And so it's very important for elected officials at all levels, local, county, state, and federal, to be prepared and be mindful of what can happen and what steps can be taken early to mitigate that eventuality.
Okay, it's always, again, before, not after the event. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, listen, we're at the end of our program. We were talking about a collection of coffee mugs, but we have another one for you, the disaster
Thank you very
zone.
much. Wonderful.
One, if it represents the status of your desk or workstation, I'm sorry. But thanks for being on the program. Thank you for what you do on behalf of the citizens, really, of Region 10, the Pacific Northwest, and pass that on to your staff, too.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you. And this brings us to the end of our show for today. Thanks for tuning in, learning more about what you and others can do to become better prepared for disasters. And this applies to individuals, as we talked about today, businesses too. Remember, if you're going to get prepared, today is a good day to start. Visit your SBA and have a great day. Bye-bye.